Some people will allow in our gates, and some you have to stay outside the water.
Yeah.
What is that thing called? I
The
learned
moat.
it. The moat.
Wait, what is it called?
Yeah,
Some people can't cross a moat. Yeah, we were talking about some people are allowed in your castle all the time. This is advice from my best friend. Some people visit, some people are allowed on the front lawn, and some people outside the moat. And you can demote and promote without them knowing, and they never have to know.
I love that so much.
So when you worked with J-Lo and Lady Gaga, you've now retroactively realized that they had their castles pretty figured out.
Yeah. I remember J-Lo and I had a sketch about hoop earrings, and I was trying to have a little conversation with her while we were on set, but she just kind of had a wall. She's like, I'm ready. Let's start. And I respect her for that. I didn't take it personally. I could feel it. God knows how many people just try to just get in there. And she had her castle. Damn, I really learned a lot from J-Lo. And Lady Gaga, I mean, she was a musical guest, and I saw her down the hallway, and I was like, oh, I want a photo with her. But I didn't even get near her because I could just see her. There was just her energy around her. I was just like, nope, she's not in that place to allow people in.
The castle and the boundaries that we set, they don't have to be off-putting or negative. It's almost like there's like a respecting yourself.
Yeah.
And then people respect you, and respect
you don't have to say a damn word.
No.
It's so amazing.
Right? We live in a complex and ever-changing world, a place that is maybe harder than ever to successfully navigate. The answer is surely to be brave, but it's also to seek and be open to guidance. Mentors are the one consistent through line in the lives of all accomplished people, myself included. So welcome to Mentor Buffet, a feast for those, like me, curious about who helped the most successful among us succeed. Melissa Villaseñor is so many things. A stand-up comic, an impressionist, a cartoonist, a musician, and she's a runner, and she's in clown school. For a long time, Melissa was doing stand-up, and she had ambitious goals of reaching what she saw as the peak of the comedy world, and that was to be on SNL. And she eventually did it.
I really shined on SNL. Those are me and my full superpower, my power.
She was part of the cast of SNL for 6 seasons. She left the show in 2022.
Yeah, I think that was a big reason why I left SNL. I was like, I don't think I have the strength anymore to be out there.
We talked about what it's like to achieve a big goal and then figure out what's next. Man, can I relate. Melissa told me about a few mentors she's had in the comedy world, like
Maria Bamford,
Whitney Cummings.
She takes care of herself.
And Bill Burr.
This is what they fucking do. They're jealous of your success, and then they're gonna find shit, and they're gonna twist it.
We talked about seeking mentorship and these moments she had with J-Lo.
J-Lo and I had a sketch about hoop earrings.
And Lady Gaga.
But I didn't even get near her.
We covered a lot of ground together. Here's my conversation with Melissa Villaseñor. Welcome to the Mentor Buffet.
Thank you.
I feel like I get to go to grad school every week because I get to hear other people and these little things that they learned. It's like, like wisdom is genuinely like abundant. It's not like just because you learned it, I can't learn it. It's not like you give it to me. You give it to me and you keep it.
And isn't it the same when every time, like if someone's questioning you about some, advice, and then you say it out loud and you're like, oh yeah, I needed to say that to myself again.
Yeah.
Like I like when that it always is helpful to hear again.
To
from
hear
my own self say it. Like if I'm helping a comic that's starting or something, then I hear myself say, I'm like, yeah, I need to do that too. Don't forget, even for me at this stage.
It's like the opposite of do as I say, not as I do. Some people say they give great wisdom, they don't follow it.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, like, what is a dream? Is it a seed you find or?
Yeah, I think you stumble upon, or for me, it was stumbling upon it and realizing, oh, whoa, this is what I'm here for. This is what I'm suddenly alive because of finding this. So I was really shy as a little kid, and then I realized I could do mimicry and impressions and singing impressions, and suddenly finding that gift, I loved seeing people laugh, and I just felt like, "Oh, whoa, I have some superpower that not everyone has." And I felt, "Oh, this is why I'm here, to bring joy." And all I mean, I discovered pretty young too, like 12, 13 years old with all the pop, the bubblegum pop girl singers. I was able to imitate most of them, and I was sharing them at school, and, um, I knew that that was what I was supposed to do really fast. So, I think I always had a struggle, and I still always am working on in therapy, my low esteem and people pleasing, and, I like that I had this power with impressions and everything, and I feel like working on when I was, like, 12, 13 years old, I was really obsessing on SNL, and I knew that I wanted to be there.
So when you kind of like grasped that this was the goal that you had and wanted, did you feel fully capable of getting it? Like when you realized you wanted it, was it like, okay, let's begin this adventure? Was it terrifying? Was it exciting? Was it abundant? What was it for you?
I think it was a mix, 'cause I think deep down, I knew I was gonna be there. I knew I was gonna get it. I think I always knew, but I always avoided by I never said anything out loud like, "Oh, I want SNL," or "I wanna be there. I will be there." I never said that. I've always felt it inside. Um, I auditioned for SNL when I was 21 years old, and I had started comedy right after high school. About 18 years old, I started doing open mics and stuff. And I didn't get the show then, which is good. I was not even informed. I wasn't I didn't know who I was.
What were you?
Um, I mean, I just felt like I was, doing impressions, but I didn't have any character idea of what Melissa was.
Does it start with you knowing who you are and then being like attracted to something out there, like someone or something? Like, what is the mechanism for you?
Um, I think for the ones that I've learned it's because they've made me feel better. The people that I would watch or listen to music, or it's because they've helped me. So those are usually the impressions I've learned.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
it's usually
completely
people I obsess over. They're like, "Man, I love their way of like, I have a Steve Buscemi impression, and I love his character, and it makes me laugh, and it makes me feel comfort." So they're all, like, different, and then if I've watched J.Lo, I'm like, "Oh, I'm Jennifer Lopez," and I feel like suddenly she's so strong and, like, just she knows who she is, and I think they're just different little, I don't know, alter egos of what I would want for me.
that it comes from a place of love and adoration
Oh,
is
yeah.
that is so awesome because I feel like you could think like you are making fun of someone, so you might pick someone that you don't admire,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
But what an awesome thing to learn that it's coming from such a positive place.
Yeah, and I mean, there were times where, especially on the show, I'd have to learn someone quick within a day or 2, and, um or even just any time in my journey where I've had to learn one and I'm like, "Oh, I don't feel the love." It feels like there's not there has to be some kinda connection. And I think even in all the old stand-up bits I've had with impressions, I always root them in myself first,
Wow.
and that always helps me feel good, and at the same time, the audience is getting their impression or being entertained, but they also get that little piece of me too where
Yeah.
they could connect to,
And it's
and
so
that's my
clear.
favorite.
And seeing you, that's so clear. Like, it's so
Yeah.
and it's also clear that you're having fun, which
Oh,
must come from that loving
I was
place.
gonna say, it's so interesting too when I do any impression, if I am having so much fun and making my own self giggle in the character, then that's when it's really good. When
Yeah,
I'm really making my own self happy.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, so you were 21, you auditioned, you weren't within yourself yet. You weren't connected to you.
Mm-mm.
How did you tell me about getting connected to Melissa?
I think I needed that um, rejection. I think I needed that fail to grow and to say, "Hey, you know what? I gotta just keep living, and I gotta keep, of course, living, but I I need to, like, take classes, I need to learn, I need to, write, I need to live more, like, life to figure out how I see the world and what makes me laugh." So, when I did America's Got Talent, that was another l big lesson too of having such big exposure with these impressions I shared on the show, and suddenly having to headline across the country, clubs and colleges, suddenly having to do almost an hour on stage when I only had like 15 minutes, maybe. That was a whole time of a lot of bombing and a lot of just a lot of pain because it was so hard. So that was those are other lessons, but um, also again, like another experience I needed. I needed that um, to learn how to love myself more and be strong enough to be alone on the road. At that was man, I'm. It's still hard, but it's not as hard as it then. I was so frightened to be alone with myself in just hotels and having such horrible shows. No one was comforting. I don't even think I had anyone. Okay, I will say this was a comic that really did help me. Maria Bamford was a comic that I always will always look up to, but I remember finding her comedy. She does a lot of voices and she's super vulnerable, shares her fears on stage and does it in such a amazing way. Her stand-up's incredible. I looked up to her and I reached out to her just saying how hard it was to be on the road, and she shared with me just all of her little tricks and tips for being on the road alone.
Like specifics. Like
Yeah,
what?
like she made a list, like go do volunteer work in this town. Like she was like
One time I went to this town, I just blew up balloons for the city.
I was like, what are you talking about? So she just like made a little list of download podcasts. You know, it feels like you have friends there with you. Go find cool coffee shops. Go write. You know, call 3 friends a day. It was so she was a big mentor in that chapter because I was so afraid, and she was the only really nice comedian that I felt female, like also feeling the same. She was sensitive. And I felt like, wow, I didn't witness any other comic that was like that up until I met her. And it was so nice to see because I was so frightened.
And the way first of all, it's awesome she gave you specific advice.
Mhm.
I feel like when someone tells me what to do, it's
Yeah.
the most helpful.
Oh, yeah. Give me homework.
Yeah, give me an action to do. Tell me bring the miniature travel candle and I will do it.
Yes.
You know? And
Yes.
yes, you're giving me confidence and comfort, but you're giving it to me in the form of an action that I can do, right?
Yeah.
And I always find that advice to be the most helpful and the most like charmingly imitatable. Like you can do it.
Yeah.
And it's generous when people give you those things because they're presumably hard-earned actions. You know, they
They learned
gathered.
themselves. Yeah.
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 When did you meet Whitney?
I met her, I think I was in my early 20s. But she had more of a little toughness and she knows that I didn't really talk to her that early on because I was like, oh, she just has more of a little fire to her. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna, I don't know. But later, as I was on the road with her, she had me open for her and feature on the road. Then I kind of saw where she had a kind of nice shield, but she was also very, very sensitive too. So there were little tender moments too where I got to open up with her but I really learned a lot from her just of having that strength. She takes care of herself. I think I didn't. I would just be like, oh yeah, that's fine. I'm kind of someone that has always been like, yeah, that's fine. You can do that. That's fine. I won't. That's how I've most of my life has been that way. But when I saw Whitney kind of stand up for herself, or just if someone treated her poorly, she was just like, well, I'm not going to come back and perform then if you're going to do that again. And I was like, whoa, I've never seen someone stick up for themselves like that. And I was like, I could do that too.
You saw it in real time.
I saw it in real time one time on the road. And she told a club manager because someone had it was pretty bad too. But I was like, man, that's so cool.
That's amazing that you saw it in action too, right? There's this book, The Inner Game of Tennis, and it's like a really old, it's like an old book. I'm sure there's all sorts of problems with it, but at its core, it's like the idea that we learn tennis or sports or things by watching and imitating. To swing a tennis racket, to describe the nuance of it is much harder than to watch someone do it. We can imitate. And I think it's awesome that you saw someone do something that if they tried to describe to you how to stand up for yourself or to stand up for yourself is just not as effective.
Yeah.
Right?
And she did it in a manner of no meanness. It was taking care of, and I think that I'm like still working to this day. Like, how do I stand up for myself, have boundaries, but not be defensive or aggressive about it? That's where it is helpful for me to see someone speak up.
I learned something like this from Nick Kroll when we were shooting Olympic Dreams. It was like 3 of us making a movie. So we were shooting this movie at the Winter Olympics. We were using Olympic transportation. It wasn't efficient. We were losing time because these buses come late and this and that. We're trying to shoot a movie, right?
Yeah.
So he comes to the director and myself one day and he goes, so we're trying to make a movie. Like he basically stated the common goal. We're trying to all make a movie. And we're all, yes, we are. Yeah. Yes. And he's like, and we're not being efficient with the transportation. And, we're missing the buses. We're wasting time. We're like, yes, we all agree. And he's like, so we're going to have a car tomorrow, right? And we were like, yes, we are. We had no idea, right, how we were going to get a car. But we were like, we will figure this out. And we did. We borrowed like the Olympics transportation because they were bringing us as these artists in residence. So we borrowed the president's car and we had the car and we were much better off to have this driver. But what Nick was so brilliant at was teaching us without shaming us. And it was like this leadership where he wasn't like, you're in trouble. He was like, we have this common goal. Right?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It was like
Yeah.
he led us to
Yeah.
the answer without being like, shame on you, I told you so, or anything like that. And I've learned so much about conflict resolution through that because it's like there's never a conflict if you all want the same thing.
Yeah.
And it has helped me so much with like creative conversations or just like difficult conversations is like starting with the common goal and being and getting an agreement and then stating the discrepancy almost.
Yeah.
And then stating the solution as if it's already been decided.
Yeah, she really kind of framed it, helped me with being on the road now as as being the headliner for shows of like she would have the club, like someone pick her up that was part of the comedy club and she'd be like, let's go to Whole Foods first. I want to get my meal, get food before I go perform. Just even that. I would just remember being, whoa, we could go to the market, tell them to go to the market. Just that when I was 26 or 27. Yeah, it was just little things like that went a long way for me to be like, yeah, no, I need to take care of myself.
That's everything, too.
Yeah. And it's even just last week, too, I was talking to Whitney, and she just shares all these wise nuggets with me, words of wisdom of just stuff that I do still lean on her. I still call her and text her when I'm in a little pickle situation.
And does she tell you what she would do, what to do, or how to think? Like, how
I
does
think
she approach?
She does say, like, this is what I do. This is, like, there was a project it wasn't my project, and I was kind of frustrated with it, and she was like, if it's not my project, I just say, I'm a worker bee today. I'm just going to be the worker bee. I'm not the queen. That's not my project, but I'll be the worker bee. And I was like, oh, I like that. That helped a little just to do the job and stop trying to control something that's not my deal.
To reorient.
Yeah.
Or to orient. It's not reorient, it's just orient.
Yeah. Yeah. So things like that go a long way. And I have to write it all down in my little, you saw me when we had last week. I have my little Hobonichi. It's my little calendar. And then there's all these extra blank pages. I have to write the little nuggets. Like yours, we are castles. Some people will allow in our gates, and some you have to stay outside the water.
Yeah.
What is that thing called? I learned
the moat.
The moat.
Wait, what is it called?
Yeah,
some people can't cross a moat. Yeah, we were talking about. Oh, and then we were talking about J-Lo, and we were talking about Lady Gaga.
Yes.
Which are you willing to share? So we were talking about We were talking about boundaries, the kind of boundaries that you set in your own brain that nobody else has to be aware of,
Right.
about how people penetrate you, essentially, emotionally, their opinions, whatever it is, and that some people are allowed in your castle all the time. This is advice from my best friend.
It's such a good visual for me to see
Right?
in my mind. Yeah.
Some people visit, some people are allowed on the front lawn, and some people outside the moat. And you can demote and promote without them knowing, and they never have to know.
I love that so much.
It's super
I'm
helpful.
gonna do a drawing for that.
Yes,
I'm
I
definitely
want
gonna do it, and then I'll have you. It's like Alexi's words of wisdom.
castle.
Castle.
So when you worked with J-Lo and Lady Gaga, you've now retroactively realized that they had their castles pretty figured out.
Yeah, yeah. I remember Lo and I had a sketch about hoop earrings, and I was trying to have a little conversation with her while we were on set, but there was she just kind of had a wall, like, and I don't know if I tried to talk to her, but then she just told the director or whoever was, this camera, she's like, "I'm ready. Let's start." And she didn't even want to. She was like, ready to go. Let's practice. Efficient, and I respect her for that. I didn't take it personally. I could feel it.
Yeah.
I could feel people's energy pretty well. And I was like, oh, she is just being efficient, protecting herself, because at that level, God knows how many people just try to just get in there. And
You
she
get
had
in
her
there.
castle. But she was I really was like, damn, I really learned a lot from J-Lo. Um, and Lady Gaga, I mean, I think she was a musical guest, and I saw her down the hallway, and I was like, oh, I want a photo with her. But I didn't even get near her because I could just see her. There was just her energy around her. I was just like, nope, she's not in that place to allow people in. And I thought that was cool.
I went on a run with this girl who told me she's not a young girl, and she said that her energy she wants to give off is unapproachable to men, particularly. And I feel like that's not what they were doing, but it's like the idea that we can give off some kind of like, we're like suns, right? Like we are the sun, and we give off something, and some of it is like an unoffensive way of saying how to respect us,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like it's an aura or something, but it doesn't have to be bad. I think that's what we're saying is
Yeah.
like the castle and the boundaries that we set, they don't have to be off-putting or negative. It's almost like there's like a respecting yourself.
Yeah.
And then people respect you, and respect
And you don't have to
is
say a damn word.
no,
It's so amazing.
right?
I remember I did like a sketch with William Defoe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was just standing there, and he had like a pleasant smile, and there was something about him that made me feel calm, and he was professional, but there was also this just confidence and peace and gratitude, and he was just giving all of that off and not saying a damn word. I was like, this is so cool. And I've noticed that within myself too. If my energy is, especially at SNL, you're trying to figure out what to write that week, and you're desperate for a writer to come up with something, and there's stress, and I can tell. I remember there are moments where if I'm giving out that energy, no one's going to want to write. It's too much. It's too much. And there were some weeks I would go in there and be like, yeah, I'm pretty cool. And people would want to work with you. It's so amazing.
It's like it's an attraction thing that starts with you.
It really is. That's why it's like so important to work on that energy that you would want to attract, truly.
Mm-hmm. You were just talking about confidence and how you need to exude it and all this stuff, but I'm like, but isn't it a hard environment to exude confidence in?
Yeah, I think that was a big reason why I left SNL was I was like, I don't think I have the strength anymore to be out there.
What did Bill tell you, Bill Burr, when you were
My
there?
first season at the show, I had it was so stupid, but it broke me. Um, I had a Twitter and someone went back, found old tweets, said I was racist. So they made such a convincing article. I had so much hate. And most people don't even know or remember. For me, it killed me. That whole first season, I was like, I'm actually done. I'm never gonna be able to be liked or loved at all. I really thought, and it was only a day of so much hate, but for me, it was my whole world. And I've always been a people pleaser, and I always wanted to bring joy. And at that moment, I had so much self-hate, and I was there. And I remember calling Bill Burr because all comics know, and they know how this happens. People will, once you get some taste of success, they're going to come in and twist your words and make you look horrible and get people to hate you. And Bill was one that has had countless times of that. So I was like, I need to call Bill Burr. And I remember calling him. I was on the road, and I was like, Bill, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to keep going. I don't know what to do. And he was like, this is what they fucking do. They're jealous of your success, and then they're gonna find shit and they're gonna twist it. And I laughed so hard, but I was just like, he like really made me feel safe, like just better. I was like, oh, so many people understand this. But it's so frightening. It was so scary. But I just remember that phone call. It just made me like cry and feel like I wasn't alone in
Mhm.
it. So, but it's so scary though when it's happening. I mean, you're actually have to accept not everyone's gonna like me.
Yeah.
That was so hard for me.
But to accept it based on this advice from Bill, to accept it as
Success.
normal.
Yeah, and it's just gonna keep like yeah.
Was that what helped the most? Was just to say this is part of the game
Yeah.
instead of
Yeah.
being surprised every time it happened? Because isn't it just like you obviously did many seasons of the show, and so you didn't quit that first season. You came to expect criticism and even like meanness around you as a part of the game.
I tried
you know?
as best as
Well,
just
as best you can. It's
yeah.
not but can't you hold two things at once though? Like you could still have it hurt and suck and also accept that it is a part of it. Is that
Yeah.
or you cannot, but you did, right?
Yeah, I mean, I still kept going. So I'm clearly, like we were saying earlier, it's like we're so capable, but the minute you just kind of let it affect you, then you don't think you are, but we are. We're much anyway.
No, not anyway. We're much not anyway.
No, I forgot what I was gonna say.
Like well, you just seem to be realizing your strength over and over again as we talk. Because
Yeah.
you're basically saying, like, I feel I can see it in your eyes.
Yeah.
Just like those moments of like, I did that. Like,
Yeah.
and
I think there's also, and I think I tend to get small, then I'll get really, like, I know my power.
yeah.
And those are the moments I do feel proud, and I really shined on SNL were those big moments where I played Gaga or Dolly or did my Caesar character on Update. Like, those are me and my full superpower, my power, and the beauty and the love that I carry. And I could see it when I would rewatch. I'm like, oh, I have. And then sometimes I'm very small, and that's when I would let all the my own dumb negative thoughts win. But yeah, it's that. How do you keep? That's why I'm like so amazed by how do people stay that strong and keep? You got to really have a lot of belief in yourself, man.
Oh my gosh, Melissa, this reminds me of like, this is gonna get like, well, it reminds me of our conversation about like the North Star. So like we were talking about how our North Star used to be a really specific thing. For me, the Olympics, for USNL, which I love having a friend to relate to in the same. It's so awesome. Like they're both amazing dreams, right? And very few people get there.
Yeah.
And when they get there, very few people have proud moments. Like hearing you talk about your J-Lo and the various moments where you're like, I really fucking nailed it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel about my Olympics too. And not everybody feels that way when they get to the peak, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But now we are pursuing other things and we are both kind of moving towards things we have a crush on and feelings, but we don't have like the one goal anymore. I mean, you did clown school, you are in piano lessons, you're doing singing lessons, acting lessons. I'm similarly doing the podcast, writing a book, trying to write a play. Like it's like we're in this, but we are moving towards things that make us have a feeling now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And when you were saying the thing about like how does J-Lo, how do they like handle all the whatever it is? It's like, well, as long as we were talking about the galaxy, right? How the North Star puts you in a little galaxy that is within the scope of your values and the thing that you want. And I think that every challenge or every negative thing, every whatever it is, if I'm generally pointing towards the thing I want, is something that's going to help me grow toward that thing. What is the difference between who you are or who we are and the feelings and the values that light us up? Like what I'm wondering is like,
No, but that should be the same.
I hope so. I think so.
I think so.
Because when someone says like, if someone is like, Alexi, figure out who you are, which I would love to do too. I don't know what to think about. Like, I don't know what image to think about or what to do. Like we were talking about actions. But when I think about like, what do I have a crush on and what activities light me up versus the ones that don't, then I can start moving and doing those things.
Yeah.
To figure out who I am, I feel like I can only do it by crafting who I am, like by doing things.
Yeah. I think that's how I am right now too, where the more I show up, especially for the classes that I once I get there, then I'm like, oh, I'm doing the right thing. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. But yeah, I don't have a specific want right now. So there's not like, oh, I want this show or I want this movie. I'm like, I don't know. But I know that when I show up for piano lessons or singing or acting, and I'm in the class and I'm like, yeah, this is what I'm really good. I'm really good at this. And I do feel the joy within me come back and all the colors come back. So I'm like, I don't just keep showing up and being willing to be open. But yeah.
And I think you and I haven't really been in a significant period of time like this before, right? Like a big period of time that doesn't really have.
Yeah, because you probably started really young too. I started at 15. And that's all. I didn't go to college. I didn't have any long relationships or anything. Like I was just, no, let's keep working but now I finally come to a place where I'm like, oh no, I didn't have any other, like, no, I mean, it's funny to me. I feel like I laugh thinking I have a joke about, I should have had other plans because there was nothing else after SNL that I had on my list in my life.
But would you have even gotten there if you had made some other, like, you know what I mean? Like, how could you have asked yourself to like we did, and regardless, you didn't, so it doesn't matter because we are where we are.
Yeah.
But okay, do you think though that, oh my gosh, you're an impressionist. You know how to change. You know how to evolve. And you know how to make it your own.
Yeah.
Don't you? Isn't that like what you do?
Yeah. I was just thinking about when we were chatting last week I like how you said to look up to someone and truly try to pretend you're them. Like what you said as an athlete, someone you look up to and be like, no, I'm this guy.
In the scenarios where I don't like who I am.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So for me, it was like business conversations, and I was imitating this.
That's so
runner.
Smart. I love that.
Yeah, I think I actually do it a lot because you're always like, I wish I was like more like this person in this scenario.
Yeah.
And And it's kind of fun to do it that way because you're like, what would they say and do? And what would they tolerate? And uh, it's quite useful. The alter ego.
Even yesterday, I guess this is a new impression. It's still in the works, but there's this guy named Rick Rubin, the music producer. I've been imitating him because I do listen to him a lot, and I have his book, and I was like, oh, could this be some weird impression? But it made me laugh. The look of it. I mean, he has such a long gray beard, and he's just barefoot, and I was like, this is fun. Again, someone that I look up to and admire. But I was also putting my own little Melissa spin on it, like things he wouldn't say. So so I think I could still feel it in me when I'm sharing it. It's like those are the things that it's almost like going back to square one. Like, why did I start this in the beginning?
Mm-hmm.
It was because I would make myself laugh and and other people are laughing there with me at how silly something is. That's why I started it. And that's good to remember because sometimes I get so pile on all these things and I'm like overthinking, like, no, stop. What was the main core? What was the simplest thing that why you began all of this? And before all that, it's just like the entertainment business and the pressures and all the thinking of what other people are thinking. It's like trash all of that. It's just what's the joy? What was the most simple, beautiful thing that you loved about it?
Yeah.
That's so important, like to not forget.
It's so important to not forget. And it's so wonderful to be like, also, I already did one of the things I really, really wanted to do. It took so much effort and commitment, literally
Yeah.
ungodly. Like when I think
Yeah.
about what we both did and went through and bizarre stuff, that I'm genuinely like, I'm really like, I want to keep living. I love life.
Yeah.
But I'm genuinely curious if I pursue the things that make me light up, joyful, my instincts, whatever, can I survive on this planet? Like, I'm genuinely like, what could I play the game? Like, and someone
Yeah.
will kick us out if we're not meant to be here.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
always like, so I almost am seeing it like a game of like, how far can I go by pleasing myself?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, and it feels like a game to me now because I don't know where it goes. I know that the step I take is pleasing to me
Yes.
and lights me up.
Yeah.
And so it's more like we're in like this forest where it's like the steps you take are your own and we don't know where it leads.
Yep.
And we assume it will lead somewhere. There's a basic survival need, of course. We have to like pay our bills and whatnot. But other than that, it could lead anywhere. And that's quite the opposite of where we were before, which started from that joyful place, but it was leading to a very
specific,
right.
yeah.
It was like a lighthouse. We're like got to get there.
Yeah.
But this is really exciting because what we do
It's
know,
super exciting and an honor that we could be here doing whatever lights us up.
and it almost is like our next step has to be the brightest one, and we don't know the far off lights, right? It's like we know the next step needs to feel this certain way. And we assume that if we follow, it's almost like a string of lights instead of this one lighthouse,
so
right?
Beautiful.
Does it feel kind of like that?
Yeah.
I mean, I've never thought about it this way, but I'm like, oh yeah, it's like all these little tiny Christmas lights.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I feel with my art, I feel like that's a space where I'm like, I want to keep going in that direction because it's cathartic and it connects people, and I'm even a little more raw and more open in that space. It's so cool.
But
so like
cool.
I don't know what where it's going, but it's like the more I just stay honest in my art, it just feels fucking cool. I'm sorry, can I swear?
Yeah. And it's so important that we have like communities of people that allow like that where that is like a safe way to navigate the world. Right? Like
well, I think for you and I, our friendship, you can lean on me because we're both in the similar place.
Yeah.
Because most people, if you share this, I mean, even my parents, they'd be like, "What the hell? Keep doing comedy. Keep doing the thing that you're good." It's like, don't, what are you wasting time? Like, there's, but no, it's important to. I get it.
Well, and the world won't evolve us for us. People just see you as a repeating mirror. You know, when you're like, there's
Yeah.
2 mirrors and it's like a million
Yeah,
of
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah.
I feel like we are
up to
the
us.
leaders.
Yep.
Yeah. And they will, the thing is that they will get on board eventually. They meaning the ones enough or not. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't want to think about that. I don't know. I don't even want
Yeah.
to think about it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like, and maybe it's like, okay, what if we were capable enough to change our lives and evolve so much that we did such a specific task or role, which was, you know, for me, running 25 laps on the track and you being on SNL, highly specific, which terrifies you because you're like, it's so specific that it's useless or whatever, right? It doesn't translate, or what does it become? And me, I'm similarly like, what does this become? But actually, we changed to become those people. And therefore, the distance we went was capable. Like, that's capable, whatever you know? And so, like, I'm not so worried for us because I'm like, we already showed ourselves that we were capable. We don't know where the capable leads, but we have the like battery and the muscles.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're getting in touch with the crushes and the little lights. And it's like, isn't that all we really need? Is like the backpack full of what we need, which is all the experience, the person who can change, the capability, the good community, whatever, the values, whatever. And then the part where we're like, we don't really know who we are fully. I totally feel that. I'm like, I don't know where it's going. Because like we were so specialized, but now we're able to like, it's almost like we have the muscles to do it now. I feel like I'm talking to you way too much for it being my podcast.
But I'm not even, I'm not interrupting because I get, that's
Do you know the feeling?
I
It's
have a
like-
drawing I have a little person in the woods with the backpack, a bunch of footprints, and the light's just beaming from them, and they're alone in the woods, but they're lost or maybe just wandering. But it's like the same
Yeah.
exact feeling. I get it.
And you feel that way.
Yeah,
Isn't it? It's kind of awesome.
that's really cool. This is special.
Yeah, it's special. And I'm like, we should just let it be special. We should let it be real and let it be good. There's no problem.
There isn't. There really isn't.
There's
It's
no
just our
problem.
own. You just have to stay out of your own mind.
Yeah, or just
For me,
stay out of your own mind. but,
stay out of
like,
your own way. Let it be
right.
fine.
Stay on your own team.
Yeah.
Stay out of your own way. I get it. But it's kind of exciting. It just feels that it's a different, like we've had to adapt. Like it's what got us here is not what will get us to the next place kind of mentality. And we are really lucky to have like probably a few people around us that get it. And a genuine interest in like where our own lives will lead. Well, Melissa, I adore you.
Thanks,
Thank
Alexi.
you.
Thanks for having me.
That was the Mentor Buffet, and I'm really, really grateful that you came on.
Thanks for having me.
yeah.
That was really cool to be on and share and learn.
Thank you. It was great. We did it.
I did it. Thank you.
If you're enjoying Mentor Buffet, follow Voicing Change for more inspirational and truly life-affirming content from shows like Soul Boom, The Proof, Feel Better, Live More, and the Rich Roll podcast. Just go to voicingchange.media. That's voicingchange.media for a beautiful selection of productive and positive shows.